Okay, hello everyone, and welcome back to Brickrigs. Here on the CMAP again. Going to be showing off some things that I made again. Um, so yeah, as always, I have not been still. Okay. Taking a while to load that. So yeah, as usual, I have not been lying still with my Brickrigs stuff. So the first thing that I want to show off is this light tank that I made. This was built entirely from scratch because I was looking at the tanks that I have for my tank company, and I have got mediums, heavies, tank destroyers, command tanks, experimental assault weapons. I've also got AVRE things such as the bulldozer, and also Bergpanzer things, but I hadn't got a light tank for doing recon. I've got a couple of other things that you might be able to use in place of recon panzer, but however, I didn't have a dedicated light tank, so I went ahead and built one. And the aim of it was to make a small, fast, dedicated scout panzer, which was lightly armoured but could hold itself against any sort of recon infantry or light vehicles, and basically recon back any enemy positions or movements back to the main force of mediums and whatnot. So, starting from scratch, I decided to use off-road wheels because it's going to be travelling across country to get to advantageous positions, and it's got them there. Slightly exposed perhaps, but it's still got the slightly sloped armour of all of the other tanks that I've built, with the sloped armour coming up there. And it's a two-man recon tank. It's got a little bit of hatch printing on the top there, and on the top of the turret there. The engine is located in the back here. What it is, if I can find it in here. Nope. If I can find the engine, there it is. It's a normal diesel V12, but I've set the gear ratio scale to 0.5 to make it a little bit quicker off of the mark than a regular vehicle, or one of the regular tanks. As for the front, it's just a little thing here. You've got two levers here, which is what the driver would use to obviously drive the tank. The radio is in the back here, which is what the driver. So the driver also doubles as the radio operator. So he can just simply turn around and turn the knobs, turn the dials, recon, and report to the main tank force or the main military forces in the area. And so I then just sort of chopped it off there, and then I built a little turret for the commander slash gunner slash loader. And what this is in here you've got a seat which is attached to the turntable here, and then up here he's got a nice all-round view of just a whole load of windows, two machine guns for infantry deterrent, along with the couple of antennas at the back for the radio. And there it is at the back. It's got a bit of grill printing. It can turn on the spot, obviously, because it is a tank. The turret as well can turn if you press Alt and then move your mouse. It can elevate. You can elevate the machine guns for slight anti-aircraft defense, and also obviously shoot them along with turning or traversing the turret. And then you can head off, because it is faster off the mark than one of the other tanks. There's the view for the driver. It's rather sleek. The turret perhaps may not be the best design, but it's slightly more quick off the mark than the other vehicles, the other tanks. Get some air there as we jump over. The off-road wheels give it a better stead over cross-country for getting to advantageous recon positions. Oh my god, we lost a wheel. That's fine, don't worry about it, that's what they're there for. And yeah, it's just a light recon tank which can be used to just scout about for the main force, deter infantry, perhaps shoot down a helicopter or two if you're lucky with those machine guns. And yeah, it's just another extra for the tank forces, because well, you needed a light tank, and there one is. So after that, I'll show the next military thing, which is this. It's a little remote mine. So I'll actually show it off at the garage. It's probably going to be easier. So here it is. I started making a little chassis. I decided to use the smallest wheels that we had, which is the 2x2. Mount them on a couple of axles, 3 of them there, and then you just had a 6x2 plate mounted under that. Bit of sloping on there. Camera for the radio, for the driver, or well, controller, to move the tank around with. So camera so that he can see where he's going. It's got the radio aerial out the back, which corresponds, of course, with the little operating area over there, for want of a better word. And then basically packed in here, you've got a detonator, which is then attached to a whole load of stacked. If I can select them, there you go. You can see a load of them clipping there. And basically, what those are is they're a whole load of fuel tanks packed with C4. And well, what happens is, there you go, a whole bunch of them. If I go to selection, select the same type, got 117 of them in total, 3 detonators, and yeah, that's about half the creation right there. Basically a whole packing of C4, which is able to bring down a building, bring down a super tank, whatever. And it's basically just a small mobile remote mine, as it does what it says on the tin. And then heading back, obviously the operator needs somewhere to, control the vehicle with. So I've created this little scene here. So you've got some oil drums or whatever, which are in my now usual sharp camouflage, and then that's mounted on a brown, dark brown 8x8 plate. And then I've created just this little arming scene. So you've got a couple of boxes of machine gun ammo, .303, and then you've got a little machine gun on a spit here, which doesn't fire. It's just purely there for looks. So it's just to add to the enhance the scene. And then you've got some shells at the side here, and then what you've got is you've got the main control hub here. So you've got your main seat there. Got two gear levers to obviously move the vehicle with, and then you've got this little 2x1 flat plate, which is supposed to be like a keyboard, for example, if you are actually controlling this thing. And then you've got an array of monitors here, which would be used to further control the vehicle, and of course the little radio aerial right there. And heading out into the open here, this is the view which you will meet. Let's just change it to daytime. So there's the little mine. You can control it fairly easily. It's got tank steering, so it can turn on the spot, as you can see, well, for the most part. And then you can just sort of drive it around. Alternatively, you have got the little camera mounted on the front there, as you can see. The actual engine powering this is a electric motor, which is set to 5 gear ratio, so that it's not too fast to be uncontrollable, because as you can see, it is still quick off the mark, even with a very decreased electric motor. But the reason that it's electric is to just help you sneak up on enemy tanks, for example. And yeah, if we were to, for example, drive it all the way down here, as you can see, the camera on the vehicle gives you a very nice wide view at the front, so that you can easily see where you're going. And say we didn't like the skyscraper, we could just simply do that, and in the distance a skyscraper falls down. But just to reset the creation here, if I do show you just the blast radius of this thing, let me just drive it away ever so slightly, like that, stop, and then slow-mo. That's how big the blast radius is. The actual construction of it appears to be very, well, good apparently, but there's the actual blast radius of it. It's a pretty big blast radius. So, yeah, it's decent. If I was to just get a demonstration target, so for example, say the Germans were attacking, because, you know, everyone apparently likes it when the Germans are being attacked. So let's say, for example, you've got a Jagdtiger just sitting down the road from you, and you need something to take him out with. And nothing you had was able to dent him. You would simply send in the remote mine over here, and then, unfortunately, it's too big to actually fit underneath it, but you can just sort of do that and blow the Jagdtiger to Kingdom Come. So, yeah, very effective. As you can see, not much of that Jagdtiger left. Yeah, it's quite useful. As you can see, the seat has actually phased through a building. And that's been thrown quite far. And just for demonstration's sake, let's just do one from back here. As I try to control it without using the camera, that's not going well. Let me just position it. So, even from the front, right here, Jagdtiger. You can just about see it there. Boom. Yeah. Jagdtiger goes bye-bye. Is the technical term for that. But as you can see, it utterly rips. It just rips through the hull. The entire top of the superstructure has come away. The little Germans under here, they're still alright. Slightly on fire, but the crew is alright until... oh dear. That comes crashing down on them. Although they were lucky, it missed. But as you can see, entire top of the superstructure, entire top of the hull has actually come away. Engine still there, but the rear of the engine blasted off into the nothingness. And it's a quite effective remote mine. And yeah, that is the other military creation that I created. And it's quite effective. is all that I can really say about the matter. So, other than that, what else have I done that isn't military? Well, me and my friend went to a museum, a motor museum, and we saw a whole bunch of nice old cars. So I got back and then I was like, yes, I want to create some old stuff again. And I decided to make a really old car. It's not 1960s like the truck. Oh, no. Further back than that, oh no, it's not 1930s. I've been building 1930s things for a bit. No, it's not 1930s, it's 1910. It's a really old car design, as you can tell. So the images that I was going off of made the car look a lot like this. So it had this white under chassis bit, which also had part of the front leaf suspension right there. And so that's what the white bit is, and that's what these bits are. These are supposed to be sort of the front bits of the leaf suspension. And then it had, of course, the spoke wheels, so I decided to actually use the spoked wheels, which are, of course, racing wheels in brick rigs, but they serve their purpose. It uses a lot of gold, a lot of nice brass and polished things, and it was also in black, so I decided to make this creation also in black. So it's got these little wheel hubs of just gold half spheres. The front grille here is obviously in black from the pictures that I was looking at, and then it's got the gold front of it, which was around the radiator bit, and then the rest of it is all in black. The headlights were not the same way as these. These are basically like old lamps. This is a really old car design because it uses lamps instead of actual headlights. But that's what these are supposed to be. These are supposed to be like the old lamps. So in here it uses some glass redirectors, which is how you get these redirector 1x1x1 plates. And then inside of them you've got some just gold 1x1x0 redirectors, just to make it look a lot like the old lights. And then at the front it's got a white headlamp 1x1x0 thing, and it's got two of them obviously mirrored on each side. And then it's got the side runners, which also lead up to the mud guards here, which are just some simple 3x1 flat plates, and then those are just connect to a bunch of actuators. Unfortunately, because these aren't held onto anything other than these extra side runner bits, which then connect to the middle of the vehicle, these things do tend to wobble around wobble around whilst driving, and that is also partly due to how I've set up the suspension. So the tyre pressure is 1 because, well, the really old cars didn't actually use rubber with air inside of them like the 1930s cars onwards. For a quick explanation, they instead used solid rubber mounted onto the metal wheels. So because we don't have any solid rubber wheels, I've just decided to put the tyre pressure to the maximum it can be, which is 1, which makes it very stiff, and it's basically the closest we can get to. Not only that, but the suspension stiffness is 70, and the suspension travel is only 2, so that makes it and so that basically makes it feel like it's an old car, which is a very bumpy, with the old leaf spring suspension on it, and that's just been mirrored on all 4 of these axles. And then coming to the actual middle, it's got a bit of chrome here for the step up. It's got 2 seats at the front. It's got a very nice oak wood finished interior, very open as it was for the old vehicles, and then you've got just these rods which then can just help to hold up the roof a bit, and then it's also got the steering wheel, which sort of just comes out of the vehicle there. The runners continue up to the back of the vehicle, along with a couple more wheels. At the back, you've got these light cylinders. No number plates, because the number plates apparently weren't invented in well, looking at these cars that I was looking at least, number plates hadn't been invented as far as I could see. And then as for the rear door, because this is a 4-person car, as you can see, 2 seats in the back, a little bit of space. So the rear door, you've got this sort of handle looking thing, and that's just a 1x1 stud, which is then connected to a 1x2 rounded flat plate, and those are both in gold for the sort of brass nice looking thing. Rear window, which is just a couple of flat bricks, and then you can open that door as well and get people into the back of the car. And well, yeah, that's the old car. Well, we're in the dead of night, so you can see there's the headlamps, there's the tail lights. Here's how it looks. It's not very fast because I set the normal car engine, which is what's in this. This is just a normal car engine, because I set the normal car engine to a ridiculously high gear ratio, which means that it doesn't get any higher than 23, as you can see. There we go, we're already maximum gear, and we're at 23 miles per hour, because these cars were not fast. But here's how it looks. Unfortunately, yeah, due to, well, how these cars were, and also due to the fact that I do not know how to correct that, those things are just sort of wobbling. I have set the movement of those actuators to 0, so technically they shouldn't be moving, but they are. And that's only due to the fact that there's a lot of weight on that, and there's nothing holding it up. But yeah, so that is the old car. It's got the steering wheel at the front. There's the rear door. The headlamps work as, headlamps. You can open the rear door by, pitch. As you can see, pitch opens the door. Come to a complete standstill very quickly. Yeah, so you can open and close the door there. Very simple. Unfortunately, due to the high gear ratio, it's probably best to drive this thing in manual. So, obviously, using shift will help you change gears and actually get up to a slightly quicker than snail pace speed. But oh dear, we're going to have to try and get over this rubble. That's a challenge. Tally ho. At maximum speed, knocked off a bit of the vehicle and a bit more. But we got over it alright. Nothing else fell off, only those front bits. So yeah, that is the 1910 car, the oldest thing that I have made, I do believe. To date, at least, at the date of this video. And then finally, I went back to the 1930s because I have built several emergency vehicles. I've built the ambulance. There you go. Ambulance and several kinds of police car, but I didn't have a fire engine. So I thought, why not swell the ranks of the 1930s builds? And I built a fire engine. One of the old style fire engines. So this is quite fun to create. Looking at pictures from the internet, I tried to base the fire engine off of them, and most of those are Dennis fire engines that I was looking at for English fire engines, and therefore this thing is basically a mostly copy of the Dennis, but with some changes, so it's not an exact Dennis fire engine. The front grille, well, the actual front of it could probably be longer. However, it was difficult enough trying to mirror this whole area from the 1930s bus. So yeah, I just sort of left it at that. This is based off of the chassis of the 1930s bus. I just decided I would try and use it. But the whole thing's in this dark red because the light red was just, the normal red was just too bright. And I feel that it didn't fit really with the old fire engine. So at the front you've got the light cylinders here, which are then just basically a mirror of how I've done all of the other ones. They're not held onto the front because I just felt that if I was to do this, it would just look a bit odd. So I instead decided to just do that and mount them to the rest of the vehicle, or rather mount them to the redirector, which is also holding on the indicators at the front. So yeah, those are the front lights. You've got the grille, you've got a nice chrome bit here, and then it goes to the black because the pictures I was looking at, the front of it was black. And then you've got the front number plate, which reads FE 1930, FE obviously standing for Fire Engine 1930. I've gone back to the old wheels, well, the other wheels that I normally use, because I just feel that they look better than the racing wheels. And on those you've got some gold half spheres because there was a lot of gold used in the old days apparently, the good old days, because who doesn't want something coated with gold? Black grille obviously, and then you've got the front mud guards, which just simply go up and over the wheel. And then you've got the front of the fire engine, which was nice and open to let the firefighters hop in and out very easily and very quickly to get to fires. You've then got the big front windscreen here, which is sort of just divided down the middle. These, well, or rather, just the gold trimming was done by basically using a bunch of underscores on nameplates and then painted to look like a gold colour. And then that's just a variety of underscores which are just made to look like a constant line. And it works rather well. It's also been used to create the engine, the engine grills here, as you can see, which, well, you can't really see because they're mostly covered by the rest of the vehicle, but they are there along the side. And actually under here is just the normal van or truck motor just under there. And then moving back, you've got space for two people there. You've got the steering wheel, and then you've of course got the gear stick there. On the side runners, you've got this gold trim here, which I should probably try and make into a constant line, which I might do after this video. But looking at the pictures that I was looking at online, there was a lot of these just these gold trims, so I just tried to mirror them the best I can. And then coming to the back, of course, that you've got the back wheels, which have again got the little half sphere caps. It's a London Fire Department because I need to show that it's an English firefighting piece of equipment. So what better than to make it from London? So that's what that is there. And then of course it's got some more of this gold trim just edging around it. And then you've got the basically the support for the ladder. And then you've got the old bell, because of course they didn't have sirens. They instead just had a guy ringing a bell as they drove around to get to a fire. So basically if you heard somebody clanging a bell, it's probably a fire engine, so you'd best get out of the way. And then you've just got this side runner here, which is what people would just hang on to. And then you've got this, which is supposed to be the reel of hose, there we go, and then that's supposed to be the sprayer, for want of a better word, but which I can't think of right now. The nozzle, there we go, which would of course douse the fire in water, and you've just got the handle there, which you would turn to reel out the hose. And then at the back here, because the old fire engines, they didn't have the slimline ladders like we do nowadays. They instead just had giant wheels, which they would basically lift up the ladder, put the wheels on the ground, and then they would wheel it up to the building, and then just sort of angle the ladder, bang, lock the wheels in place, and then obviously climb up the ladder. And so that's what these massive wheels are here. They're not exactly a perfect circle because they were very spokey, and I'm very pleased with how these wheels turned out. These are using 1x1x2 rods. I originally tried using 1x1x3 rods, but however, I felt that the wheel was just far too big. So instead what I did is I just used these smaller ones. And it's turned out very nice. It's got a flat 1x1 stud, just sort of plonked in the middle there, which helps hold it all together. Again, it's not a perfect circle because I decided to use these 2x1x1 plates, which help to connect the wheel. However, it sort of starts good here from the top, but then as it gets around, it gets progressively more steppy, which is unfortunate. But it's the best that I could do for the wheels. I can attempt to change them, but I'm not too sure if I would. So at the back here, you've got more indicators there, and then you've got the reverse lights, you've got a couple of brake lights, and then a couple of tail, and again, rear number plate. And in the old days, cars didn't have a white front and a yellow back number plate. They just had a black one, which was then embossed or printed with white lettering. So that's what this is, more than the other number plates that I've been putting on all the other 1930s vehicles. But oh well. And then at the back, of course, just got a little exhaust. And then, in order to hold this thing on, I basically had to try and devise a way of having this ladder tilted so that it was looking like it was resting onto this bit, whilst also being securely attached to the vehicle. So that's what these things here, these rounded bricks are. They're connected to a couple of redirector bricks, and then those are then connected to these extra redirector bricks, which is then attached to the ladder, and then the whole thing is built off of that. So the wheels and everything are then on that. The ladder is built with just some 8x1x1 flats, flat rounded pieces, which are then overlapped with more of them, as you can see there, and then there. They sort of overlap here, which sort of hides the rounding on them, because I feel that the rounded pieces give off a better look than the non-rounded plates. However, rounded spars, there you go, okay, for the extra bits in the middle of the ladder to make it look, well, laddery. And then you've got the bigger one underneath and then the smaller one on top, and that smaller one is basically just held on with some redirector pieces, which are under here. Some 1x2 jumper plates are under here somewhere, which is just helping to hold it on. And it's come out pretty well. And then at the back here, you've got another reel of hose, which you could, I assume, just connect up to the fire engine, and then have it wound out to the fireman at the top of the ladder, which would then douse it into the upper floors of the building. And of course, that's what this whole contraption is on the back there. And it works as a fire engine. I'm very pleased with how this fire engine turned out. I'm pleased with the fire engine in general. It's got all of the bits which make it look nice, like it's an old fire engine. The wheels, yeah, sure, the wheels are big wheels. They may not look the best, however, they function. Why is my game going choppy? There we go. But yeah, they function as the aim, which is to have the big looking wheels. And yeah, it's just generally a nice old fire engine. Obviously, driving on the correct side of the road, because we're in England, and this is the correct side of the road to drive. Oh dear. If you're not careful, you can roll this thing, which is unfortunate. But it's just a nice old fire engine. I'm pleased with how this turns out. I finally got a fire engine to add to my collection of, well, to add to my emergency vehicle builds. And yeah, just another 1930s build. Something which isn't a normal car or a racing car. Instead, it's just a nice old fire engine. So I'll thank you all for watching, and goodbye.